Have you ever wondered why the longer a man stays single, the more different he becomes? Not weaker, not broken, but different. Why does a man who's been alone for a while stop chasing validation? Why does he no longer beg to be understood or crave constant affection? Why does he suddenly begin to walk through life with silence but power? If you've ever looked at yourself in the mirror and thought, "I've changed. I'm not the same man I used to be when I was in love," this video is for you. Because Marcus Aurelius once said, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." And maybe, just maybe, the man who has been single long enough has learned how to live there. Before we go deeper, take a second to subscribe to my channel Deep Stoic and like this video, because what we're about to explore might completely change the way you see yourself, your relationships, and your love life. Stay till the end. I promise this will give you the perspective that will not only change how you love others, but how you love yourself. Now let's dive into the truth that most men never realize. The longer a man is single, the more he begins to awaken to something powerful. Point 1. He learns to find peace in solitude. There was a time when Marcus Aurelius himself felt the ache of distance, not from war, not from the throne, but from the absence of companionship. Imagine the great emperor sitting alone in his tent, the sound of wind brushing the canvas, the night sky stretching endlessly above him. He wasn't surrounded by laughter or affection, just silence. Yet it was in that silence that he wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." You see, my friend, when a man first finds himself single after love, truly single, that silence feels unbearable. You lie awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about her smile, her voice, those little late-night talks that used to make you feel alive. You replay the last goodbye in your head, the text that ended everything, the look in her eyes when she walked away. It hurts, doesn't it? That emptiness feels like it could swallow you whole. But something powerful begins to happen as days pass. The pain softens, not because you forget her, but because you begin to find yourself again. You start to realize that solitude isn't the enemy, it's the teacher. Marcus learned that too. He didn't seek crowds to escape loneliness. He turned inward. He understood that peace isn't when someone says, "I love you." It's when you can look in the mirror and say, "I'm okay even without them." Think about it. When was the last time you took yourself on a walk and didn't feel incomplete? When did you last enjoy silence without rushing to fill it with someone's presence? A man who has been single long enough learned something rare, that being alone doesn't mean being unloved. It means learning to love differently. And slowly, that peace changes him. He no longer begs for attention. He no longer fears being left, because he finally understands the most Stoic truth of all. The one who is content in solitude is the one no one can ever truly break. He becomes unshakable, and that is the beginning of his transformation. Point 2. He stops chasing love and starts attracting it. There's a moment somewhere between heartbreak and healing, when a man suddenly stops running. He stops chasing, stops begging, stops trying to prove he's worthy of love. Not because he's bitter, but because he's finally awake. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When a man's thoughts are desperate, when he's constantly seeking approval, he repels peace. But when his thoughts turn inward, when he begins to live with purpose instead of pursuit, his entire energy changes, and love begins to find him. Picture this: Marcus sitting quietly in his study, writing to himself rather than to anyone else. The empire outside was loud, but his heart was calm. He wrote not to be admired, but to understand himself. That's exactly what a man learns when he's been single long enough. Tell me, have you ever been in love so deeply that you forgot who you were without her? Do you remember how you used to check your phone every few minutes, waiting for her message? That small sign that you mattered? That hunger, that ache, when it was never love. It was attachment. But one day you stop. You stop expecting her to call. You stop trying to convince anyone to stay. Instead, you focus on yourself, your body, your peace, your purpose. You become grounded, independent, silent, and that silence becomes magnetic. Women begin to notice something different. Not your looks, but your energy. They sense that you're not chasing them anymore. You're chasing yourself. You're not desperate for love. You've become love itself. Marcus would have called this alignment with nature. When a man's desires match his discipline, he no longer runs after what isn't meant for him. He understands what the Stoics taught. If it's yours, it will return. If not, it was never meant to stay. And that's the beautiful paradox, and when you stop chasing love, you start attracting it effortlessly, because the man who needs nothing draws everything. So ask yourself, are you chasing or are you becoming? Because the man who chooses peace over pursuit becomes irresistible. Point 3. He becomes emotionally stronger and harder to manipulate. There's a stage in every man's journey where he finally learns to guard his emotions, not by building walls, but by building wisdom. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind when not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's the moment when a man stops being controlled by others and starts mastering himself. Think about it. Remember the time you loved someone so deeply that her words could destroy or heal you in a second? How a simple good morning could lift your entire day, and one cold silence could ruin your week? You handed her that power, didn't you? Not because she demanded it, but because your heart was untrained. Marcus knew that pain too. History remembers him as an emperor, but few know how deeply he felt human emotion. He lost people he loved. He was betrayed by friends, and yet he remained unshaken. He didn't harden his heart. He strengthened his mind. He understood that emotions are meant to be felt, not obeyed. When a man spends enough time alone, he starts to see patterns. He remembers how easily he once fell for empty words, how quickly he forgave red flags, how often he mistook attention for love. Slowly he changes. He no longer reacts, and he reflects. He no longer rushes to respond, he breathes. Tell me honestly, how many times have you broken your own heart by returning to someone who already showed you their true colors? How many times did you stay hoping love would change them? That's not love, brother. That's attachment disguised as hope. But solitude teaches you something powerful: emotional discipline. You learn that silence can be stronger than words. You stop explaining yourself to people who never cared to understand. You become a man of calm eyes and steady energy. Marcus wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." And that's what emotional strength really is, refusing to let pain turn you bitter. Because when a man becomes emotionally strong, he can love deeply, without losing himself. He feels everything, but he's ruled by nothing. And that's when no one, not even love, can manipulate him again. Point 4. He learns to value his time and energy. There comes a turning point in every man's solitude, when he suddenly realizes that his time and energy are sacred. Not everyone deserves his attention. Not every conversation deserves a reply. And not every woman deserves his heart. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Do not waste the remaining part of your life in thoughts about others." When you do not refer your thoughts to some object of common utility. In simple words, he meant, don't waste your precious life on things or people that drain your spirit. Remember those days when you used to wait hours for her text? When you rearranged your plans, your sleep, even your peace just to make her happy? You gave your time freely because you thought love was sacrifice. But real love, my friend, doesn't demand your peace. It grows from it. Imagine Marcus in his palace, surrounded by letters, politics, and people demanding his attention. Yet he always found time to write to himself, to think, to breathe, to reconnect. Why? Because he knew that energy once wasted never returns. Think for a moment. How much time have you given to people who never gave you the same effort back? How many hours have you spent trying to convince someone to stay? How many days have you lost overthinking something that was never in your control? That's where transformation begins. The single man starts guarding his energy like a king protects his kingdom. He learns to say no without guilt. He no longer entertains drama or emotional games. He doesn't chase validation, because he finally understands that attention isn't love, reciprocity is. Marcus wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." So instead of waiting for others to value him, he becomes the man who values himself first. He uses his time to grow, to read, to train, to create, because he knows that every hour spent in self-mastery brings him closer to peace. And here's the beauty. Once he starts valuing his time and energy, others start valuing it too. Because people can sense when a man is no longer available for chaos. That's when his presence becomes rare and his love becomes priceless. Point 5. He learns that love is a choice, not a need. There's a quiet moment in every man's solitude. The day he realizes he doesn't need love. He chooses it. And that realization changes everything. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself and your way of thinking." He understood what few men ever do. Happiness doesn't come from another person's presence, but from your own peace. Do you remember when you first fell in love? How you couldn't stop thinking about her? How her laughter felt like music? How her messages made your day? You didn't eat, didn't sleep, you just lived for that feeling. But as time passed, you began to depend on it. You needed her to smile so you could feel alive. You needed her validation to feel worthy. That's when love stopped being pure and became dependency. Marcus faced that too. As emperor, he had everything: power, wealth, admiration. But he knew none of that could fill the emptiness of the heart. So he turned inward. He wrote about the art of self-sufficiency, about finding joy not in possession, but in understanding. He loved deeply but never desperately. That's what a man learns after being single long enough. He learns that love, real love, isn't about filling a void. It's about sharing fullness. You no longer say, "I need someone to make me happy." You say, "I want someone who adds to my happiness." Think about it. When was the last time you loved someone without losing yourself in them? When was the last time you felt love as freedom, not a cage? The man who chooses love from peace gives differently. He doesn't cling, he doesn't control, he simply appreciates. And that's the kind of love Marcus believed in. One born from strength, not fear. Because when you no longer need love, you begin to understand it. You love because you want to, not because you're empty. And that's where real power lies, in loving from choice, not survival. A man like that can stand alone, yet still love deeply. And that kind of love is unshakable. Point 6, he becomes calm, wise, and unbothered by games. There's a powerful transformation that happens. When a man has been single for a while, he becomes calm. Not the calm that comes from having nothing to care about, but the calm that comes from finally understanding what's worth caring for. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." In other words, peace doesn't depend on what others do, but on how you respond. Do you remember the early days of love? The butterflies, the excitement, but also the insecurities. When she replied late, your heart raced. If she seemed distant, your whole mood collapsed. You would overthink a single emoji, a single scene without reply, as if your whole world depended on her attention. We've all been there. It wasn't love that hurt you. It was your fear of losing it. But then comes solitude. That long period alone where you start to understand yourself more deeply. You stop reacting to every little shift in someone's tone. You stop playing emotional chess, waiting for the right move. You start seeing actions for what they are, not for what you wish they were. Marcus had to be calm in the face of chaos, wars, betrayals, pressure of the throne. He learned to respond with wisdom instead of panic. He learned that life only controls you if you let it, and the single man eventually learns that too. He doesn't chase after mixed signals, he walks away from them. He doesn't try to decode confusing behavior. He values clarity. He doesn't fall for every "I miss you." He watches the actions. Let me ask you this. How many times did you let someone's inconsistency ruin your peace? How often did you stay stuck in cycles of confusion simply because you didn't want to lose them? But now, your heart beats steady. Your mind doesn't jump to conclusions. You look at the situation, and you choose calm. Marcus Aurelius taught, be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. Meaning, you don't need to control anyone. You only need to control your reactions. This kind of man becomes unbothered by games, because once you've tasted real peace, you never entertain chaos again. Conclusion. So now you see, the longer a man stays single, the more he transforms, not into someone cold or distant, but into someone complete. He learns to find peace in solitude. He stops chasing love and starts attracting it. He becomes emotionally stronger, wiser, and calm. He learns that love is no longer a desperate need, but a conscious choice. And above all, he realizes that the greatest relationship he'll ever have is with himself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Most men waste years chasing love that isn't real, love that drains, confuses, or controls. But the wise man, the Stoic man, learns to walk alone long enough to understand that love is not supposed to hurt, it's supposed to elevate. So let me ask you, where are you right now in your journey? Are you still trying to prove your worth to someone who doesn't see it? Or are you finally ready to reclaim your peace? to rebuild your purpose, and to become the man who no longer needs love to feel alive, but chooses it from strength. Because when you master yourself, you attract a different kind of love, the kind that doesn't shake your foundation, it stands beside it. So my brother, don't fear solitude. Don't rush the process. Every quiet night, every lonely morning, they're shaping you into the man you were always meant to be. And if this message resonated with your heart, if you've ever loved deeply, lost painfully, but are now ready to rise stronger, then subscribe to my channel Deep Stoic and like this video right now. Share it with someone who needs to hear this truth. Someone who's rebuilding their peace just like you. And remember, being single isn't a curse. It's the training ground for your greatness. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.